Okay, so you want to own a trampoline park. You drive past one on a Saturday afternoon. The parking lot is packed. Kids are running in with excitement. Parents are dropping them off. The facility is open 10 hours per day. Every hour, 50 to 100 kids are jumping. At $15 to $25 per ticket, that's $750 to $2,500 per hour. A facility doing 60 hours per week generates $45,000 to $150,000 in weekly revenue. That's $2.3 million to $7.8 million in annual revenue from what looks like empty space filled with trampolines. The margins look enormous. You're renting air and springy fabric. Labor is minimal. Inventory is non-existent. It sounds like owning a machine that prints money on an hourly schedule. It sounds like owning a trampoline park in 2015 when the concept was exploding, when every suburb wanted one, when facility occupancy was high, and when anyone with capital and a large space could generate extraordinary returns. That is exactly the comparison people are making right now. The trampoline park industry was valued at over $4 billion globally. There are over 600 commercial trampoline parks in the United States alone. The market seemed like it would grow forever. Parents wanted entertainment for their kids. Trampoline parks were cheaper than theme parks and more convenient. Birthday parties booked solidly. Open jump sessions filled weekends. Corporations booked team-building events. The demand seemed infinite. But here's what is actually happening on the ground, inside trampoline park operations when the cameras are off and the actual financial statements are open. The reality of owning a trampoline park is completely different from what the packed parking lots suggest. Some parks are still making money. Most are barely surviving. And roughly 80% of owners who opened between 2014 and 2017 have exited within 3 years. The gap between the few that thrive and the vast majority that fail comes down to a handful of things that almost nobody explains before you invest $500,000 to $2 million in real estate, equipment, and insurance. By the end of this, you will know exactly where the money comes from, where it disappears to, what the hidden costs really are, and what separates the trampoline parks that survive from the ones that became expensive entertainment tombstones consuming capital relentlessly. What a trampoline park actually sells. The liability illusion people assume that owning a trampoline park means you're selling entertainment. You are. But that's not where the profit comes from. If you're selling hourly jump time at commodity pricing, the margins are much thinner than the session revenue suggests. What a trampoline park actually sells is perceived safety, insurance coverage, and liability protection. The parent doesn't care about the quality of the trampoline. The parent cares that their child can jump without dying or sustaining permanent injury. They care that if something goes wrong, the facility will cover medical costs and accept liability. They care about waivers and insurance. But here's the brutal truth that most owners don't understand until they're drowning in legal costs. Waivers don't eliminate liability. Injuries happen constantly in trampoline parks. Broken bones. Spinal injuries. Head injuries. Some are minor. Some are catastrophic. Every injury is a liability exposure. Every injury results in medical bills, insurance claims, and potential lawsuits. Insurance companies know this. They charge accordingly. But here's where the economics turn against operators. Insurance is the largest cost of operating a trampoline park, not rent or labor. A trampoline park with 5,000 to 10,000 square feet can expect to pay $100,000 to $300,000 annually in insurance. That's not contingent on revenue. That's baseline. If you generate $500,000 in annual revenue, insurance is 20% to 60% of revenue. If you generate $1 million, insurance is 10% to 30%. The math is only profitable at high volume. Below $800,000 in annual revenue, most parks are unprofitable before other costs are factored. The full upfront investment, what actually costs money. Everyone talks about the trampoline equipment. Nobody talks about everything else that eats capital before the first kid jumps. Real estate and build-out, $200,000 to $800,000. A trampoline park needs large open space. 5,000 to 15,000 square feet minimum. Usually a former warehouse, retail space, or industrial building. Commercial rent for this space is $1 to $4 per square foot annually in most markets. A 10,000 square foot space at $2 per square foot is $20,000 annually or $1,667 per month. Build out to prepare the space requires flooring, walls, structural reinforcement, lighting, climate control, bathrooms, and safety padding. Professional build-out costs $150,000 to $600,000 depending on the condition of the existing space. Trampoline equipment, $150,000 to $400,000. Trampolines cost $800 to $2,000 each depending on quality and size. A facility with 100 to 200 trampolines needs $80,000 to $400,000 in equipment. You also need padding systems, safety barriers, and foam pits. Foam pit equipment costs $20,000 to $100,000. Total equipment cost, $150,000 to $400,000. Insurance, $15,000 to $40,000 upfront, $100,000 to $300,000 annually. Liability insurance is mandatory and expensive. Your upfront policy costs $15,000 to $40,000. Annual renewal is $100,000 to $300,000 depending on claims history, facility size, and jurisdiction. Permits, licenses, and inspections, $5,000 to $20,000. Occupancy permits. Building inspections. Safety certifications. Electrical permits. Fire codes compliance. Different jurisdictions have different requirements. Software and booking systems, $10,000 to $30,000 waiver system. Reservation software. Payment processing. Time tracking. Entry management. QR code check-in systems. Furniture and fixtures, $30,000 to $100,000 reception desk. Waiting area seating. Bathroom fixtures. Cubbies for shoes. Climbing wall if included. Professional appearance matters. Marketing and grand opening, $30,000 to $100,000 launch advertising. Social media. Grand opening events. Building initial awareness in the market requires significant spending. Most parks need aggressive marketing to fill capacity. Working capital and operations buffer, $100,000 to $300,000 money to cover operating expenses during ramp-up period. Initial staff salary. Maintenance reserves. Insurance deductibles. You need substantial contingency capital. The real total investment. For a legitimate trampoline park, the total upfront investment is $500,000 to $2 million depending on size and location. Most operators finance 50% to 70% of this through real estate loans and SBA loans. A $1 million investment at 7% interest over 10 years is $11,700 per month in debt service, or $140,400 per year. Where the money actually goes, the operating cost reality. Once you're open, the costs are relentless. And this is where the trampoline park business reveals why margins collapse. Rent, 12% to 30% of revenue, typically 18%. A 10,000 square foot space at $1,667 per month. If your park generates $150,000 per month in revenue, rent is 1.1%. If it generates $50,000, rent is 3.3%. If it generates $30,000, rent is 5.5%. But these numbers only work if you're at high utilization. Most parks operate at 40% to 60% utilization, not 80% to 100%. So rent is actually 20% to 35% of realistic revenue. Insurance, 20% to 60% of revenue. The primary cost killer. A park generating $500,000 annually pays $100,000 to $150,000 in insurance. That's 20% to 30% of revenue. A park generating $1 million pays $100,000 to $250,000. That's 10% to 25%. Insurance doesn't scale down with revenue. You pay for the facility and liability exposure regardless of how many people show up. This is the hidden killer that most owners don't anticipate. Labor, 15% to 25% of revenue. Supervisory staff. Ticket takers. Cleaners. First aid staff. You need trained staff because liability is high. A facility with 5,000 to 10,000 square feet needs at least 4 to 6 staff members during peak hours. At $18 to $25 per hour, you're spending $2,000 to $3,000 per week, or $8,000 to $12,000 per month in labor. Equipment maintenance and replacement, 8% to 15% of revenue. Trampolines wear out. Springs deteriorate. Fabric tears. Padding gets compressed. You need constant maintenance and replacement. A trampoline has a 5 to 7 year lifespan. You need to budget for replacement. On $500,000 annual revenue, this is $40,000 to $75,000 per year in maintenance and replacement. Utilities, $2,000 to $5,000 per month. Electricity for climate control, lighting, and systems. Water for bathrooms. A large facility with high occupancy uses significant utilities. Climate control in hot or cold weather is expensive. Cleaning and sanitation, $2,000 to $4,000 per month. Daily cleaning of the facility, bathrooms, and equipment. Regular sanitization is essential for hygiene. Professional cleaning services might be necessary. Marketing and customer acquisition, 5% to 15% of revenue. Initial marketing to build customer base. Ongoing marketing to maintain awareness. Google Ads. Facebook marketing. Local partnerships. Groupon and discount sites. Without marketing, occupancy drops 30% to 50%. Credit card processing, 2.5% to 4% of revenue. Most transactions are card-based. Processing fees add up. On $500,000 annual revenue, that's $12,500 to $20,000. Administrative and professional services, $1,000 to $2,000 per month. Accounting. Tax preparation. Legal matters. Bookkeeping. The monthly revenue and cost reality for a typical trampoline park, a 10,000 square foot facility with average 50% utilization, capacity per hour, 100 kids. Maximum operating hours, 10 hours per day, 6 days per week, 60 hours per week. Realistic occupancy, 50% equals 50 kids per hour on average. Average ticket price, $18 per person. Monthly revenue, 50 kids/hour times 60 hours per week times 4.3 weeks equals 12,900 visits times $18 equals $232,200. Now the costs. Rent, $1,667/month, $1,667. Insurance, $12,500 per month. Average, $12,500. Labor, 20%, $46,440. Equipment maintenance, 10%, $23,220. Utilities, $3,000. Cleaning and sanitation, $3,000. Marketing, 8%, $18,576. Credit card processing, 3%, $6,966. Administrative/professional services, $1,500. Miscellaneous/contingency, 3%, $6,966. Total operating costs, $123,835. Net operating profit, $108,365. Annual operating profit, $1,300,380. Less debt service, $11,700 per month, $140,400. Annual net profit, $1,159,980. Wait. This shows $1.16 million in annual profit. That seems too good. But this scenario has problems. The hidden trap: realistic utilization is lower. The math above assumes 50% capacity utilization throughout the year. Every operating hour at full utilization. Consistent $18 average pricing. Here's what actually happens. Seasonal fluctuations are severe. School year provides more volume. Summer provides moderate volume. Kids are on vacation. Parents want them occupied. Winter holidays are peak. Spring is slow. You might run at 70% utilization in December but 20% in June. Average across 12 months is 40% to 50%, not steady 50%. Weekday versus weekend disparity. Weekends are packed. Weekdays are empty. You might run at 80% on Saturday but 15% on Tuesday morning. You need staff regardless. You pay rent and insurance regardless. Weather dependency. Bad weather drives indoor entertainment. Good weather drives outdoor activities. Sunny weekends in summer are deadly for indoor trampoline parks. Snowy winters are peak. Customer acquisition cost reality. You can't rely on word of mouth. You need constant marketing. A birthday party special at $150 for 10 kids seems good until you realize you're running 4 parties per weekend. That's $600 weekend revenue from parties plus hourly rates. But marketing to get those parties costs $2,000 to $3,000 per month. The adjusted reality. More realistic utilization. 35% to 45% average. More realistic monthly revenue. $150,000 to $170,000. Operating costs remain similar. $120,000 to $125,000 net operating profit. $25,000 to $50,000 per month annual profit. $300,000 to $600,000 less debt service. $140,400. Actual annual net profit. $160,000 to $460,000 still looks okay. But here's the problem. This assumes no injuries. No major equipment failures. No marketing crises. No competitors opening nearby. What trampoline park owners don't account for: the liability trap. An injury occurs. A child breaks an arm. Parents sue. Insurance covers the medical cost, but your claims history worsens. Next year, your insurance premium increases 20% to 30%. That's an additional $20,000 to $40,000 annually. A catastrophic injury, spinal damage, or permanent disability creates much larger exposure. Insurance might deny coverage if they determine you were negligent. You're liable directly. A $1 million settlement destroys the business. Waiver enforcement. Courts increasingly don't enforce liability waivers. Parents argue they didn't understand the risks. They claim signage wasn't clear. An injury becomes a legal battle. Defense costs $50,000 to $150,000 even if you ultimately win. Insurance covers some of it, but not all. Equipment deterioration. Trampolines wear out faster than expected if the facility is busy. Springs fail. Fabric tears. You need replacement equipment more frequently than budgeted. A complete refresh of 150 trampolines costs $120,000 to $300,000. If you need it in year 3 instead of year 5, your budgeted equipment maintenance costs explode. Competitive saturation. A new competitor opens. There are now 2 parks in your market. Prices drop from $18 to $12 per ticket. Revenue per ticket drops 33%. A facility generating $232,000 monthly now generates $155,000. You're losing $77,000 per month. You can't sustain this. You need to drop prices further to compete or improve marketing, which costs more money you don't have. The trampoline park that actually works. You open in a high-density suburban area with 100,000 plus population and no existing competitors. You capture the market during first-mover advantage. You achieve 60% to 70% utilization consistently. You generate $280,000 to $330,000 monthly revenue. Operating costs are $125,000. Monthly profit, $155,000 to $205,000. You're generating $1.86 million to $2.46 million in annual profit. Your $1 million investment is returned in 5 to 7 months. Now the park is incredibly profitable. But this requires perfect timing and location. The bad scenario. The more common outcome: you open a trampoline park in a secondary suburb. Initial utilization is decent at 55%. You generate $250,000 monthly revenue. Operating costs are $130,000. You're netting $120,000 monthly or $1.44 million annually. But year 2, a competitor opens 3 miles away. Your utilization drops to 40%. Revenue falls to $180,000. You're now losing $50,000 per month. Year 3, a third competitor opens. Your utilization is 25%. Revenue is $90,000. You're losing $40,000 per month. You're drowning. Most owners exit by month 24 to 36. Total accumulated losses, $500,000 to $1 million. You've lost your entire investment plus additional capital. Why 80% are out within 3 years? The brutal timeline. Most trampoline parks opened between 2014 and 2017 during the boom. By 2017 to 2018, the market was saturated. Every major suburb had at least one park. By 2019 to 2020, some parks were already failing. The pandemic accelerated closures. By 2023 to 2024, 80% of original owners had exited. Some sold at losses. Some shut down. Some pivoted to other business models, like party spaces. The timeline from opening to exit: Year 1, strong honeymoon period. High utilization. Profitability. Year 2, competitors enter market. Utilization declines. Profitability stalls. Year 3, multiple competitors. Price wars. Profitability collapses. Most owners exit. The hidden cost nobody discusses: staffing burnout. Trampoline park work is physically demanding and mentally exhausting. Supervision requires constant vigilance. Staff are liable if an injury occurs. Good staff leave for better opportunities. Bad staff create liability. Staff turnover is 50% to 75% annually. Training new staff costs time and money. This creates inconsistency in service quality, which affects customer reviews and repeat bookings. Conclusion: the actual economics of trampoline park ownership. Owning a trampoline park is a capital-intensive entertainment business with severe liability exposure, high fixed costs, and structural vulnerability to competitive saturation. Most parks are unprofitable within 3 years because they underestimate insurance costs, liability risks, and competitive intensity. The money in trampoline parks went primarily to first movers in 2014 to 2016 who benefited from novelty and lack of competition. The industry is now mature and oversupplied. Most locations are unprofitable. Operators are exiting. The industry fundamentals are negative. The separation between parks that survive and those that fail comes down to 3 factors. Location selection in high-density markets with no competitors. First mover advantage before saturation. Sufficient capital reserves to survive competitive entry and utilization decline. A trampoline park in a saturated market with 3 or more competitors will almost certainly be unprofitable. The pricing pressure from competition combined with insurance costs that don't scale with revenue create a profitability ceiling that's hard to overcome. Without first mover advantage and market uniqueness, the business model struggles. Here's the brutal reality that operators won't discuss publicly. 80% of trampoline park owners who opened between 2014 and 2017 have exited by 2024. The industry's growth phase is over. The market is mature and contracting. Opening a trampoline park in 2026 means competing in a saturated market against established operators with brand recognition and operational efficiency. Your odds of profitability are below 30%. Your odds of maintaining the business for 10 years are below 15%. If you're considering opening a trampoline park, understand that you're betting against 80 years of failure rates among recent entrants. Without exceptional competitive advantages, you're likely to be another statistical failure within 36 months.